Business news now, and the heat of the market proves too much for Celsius. One of the top crypto lenders files for bankruptcy. We'll tell you what that means for Bitcoin. Back in the physical world, Italy's Prime Minister resigns, but is he really going? The European Central Bank is worried about the state of the Italian economy. And Pakistan finally agrees a rescue deal with the International Monetary Fund. That may provide hope for beleaguered Ghana and Sri Lanka, who have also appealed to the IMF. Here to discuss the day's business headlines is Arise correspondent Laurie Laird. Let's start with that breaking that we gave to our viewers a little bit earlier in the show, the resignation of Mario Draghi. What's the latest from Italy?
The latest is we have no idea whether he's going. He's telegraphed this throughout the day, throughout the week. He won a confidence vote today, but he has lost the support of one of the government coalition partners. And one of the reasons the coalition partners is so against Draghi is they don't want to see this steadfast support for Ukraine. They're saying, look, the longer this war stretches out, the more damage it is for Ukrainian people. Let's effect some sort of settlement. And our Prime Minister, Mario Draghi, should be in the lead of trying to get Vladimir Putin to the table. Been a number of other issues, but that really is the cause of the split. A vote went through today about a stimulus package that managed to go through. Mario Draghi, the Prime Minister, attached himself, made it a confidence vote. He got it through, but he said without the support of this one party called the Five Star Movement, he can't go ahead. He's tendered his resignation. Problem is, it's not entirely clear who is going to step up and take over the helm. So it's likely that the president, Sergio Mattarella, will go back to Mario Draghi and said, can you just come up with something? Just hang on there a few more months, because basically the Italian economy needs you.
Why is Italy so important to the European project?
I mean, it's so interesting, isn't it? Italy is by far the most indebted big economy in Europe. And when interest rates rise, as they must do in the European Union, Italy is going to be the most at risk. Italy's debt is more than 40% bigger than its entire economy. That's fine when interest rates are negative, as they have been in the Eurozone, but with interest rates set to go up because inflation's so high, the Eurozone is incredibly worried about Italy's ability to refinance that. So worried that in the middle of June, they held an emergency meeting because Italian bond yields, that's the rate that Italy has to pay to borrow, were rising so quickly. The central bank is really worried about this. They said, we've got to come up with a plan, don't worry. Listen, if a central bank has an emergency meeting and says don't worry, that's really when you have to worry.
That is concern. Let's turn to the other big business news. Celsius filing for bankruptcy. I know this is a story that you're really interested in and energized about. What kind of institution is Celsius?
I'm glad you asked. I hope I have an answer for this. Let's, for sake of argument, call it a bank. It's like a bank. It only borrows and lends for cryptocurrency projects. So during this environment where interest rates have been so very low, they have been offering very high interest rates, lending it out and promising people wonderful double-digit returns. Now, we're looking at the founder of Celsius, and I don't know if you can see underneath the strap. He's wearing a T-shirt that says, banks are not your friends, which is absolutely extraordinary, because this is a company that operated like a bank. It took deposits, lent that money back out, promised interest rates. It's gone bust. Now remember, in the crypto world, there is no regulation. There are no government guarantees. So if you were to put your money in a bank, you do have in most places of the world something called deposit insurance. If the bank goes bust, you can be reimbursed. Right, there's regulation. You can be reimbursed courtesy of the government. The T-shirt that says banks are not your friend, well, what does that mean? It's absolutely extraordinary.
So what went wrong with this business model?
I mean, it's difficult to say because their accounts are so very opaque. With a bank, most of them are listed on the stock exchange. They have to give quarterly calls. They have to release balance sheets. You can see how much money they are sitting on should there be a run on the bank. These crypto companies are not regulated in any way. What appears to have happened is they took in less money than they could pay out. So when the crypto thing started to go through the floor about 6 weeks ago, remember Bitcoin really plunged in value. A lot of the other cryptocurrencies that are less stable than Bitcoin, if you can imagine, also had some trouble. Depositors said, we want out. This is really scary. Celsius did not have the money to repay depositors. They had to freeze deposits. There are billions of dollars of deposits that are locked up here. So they have now filed for bankruptcy. They say, don't worry about it. We're going to work this out. Everything's safe with us. But because we can't see the accounts, it's impossible to tell.
Let's turn to Pakistan and the IMF. It appears that a deal has been agreed. What does this mean for Pakistan?
It's been agreed, hasn't been approved by the IMF board yet, and the IMF has been talking to Pakistan since 2019. This is a very, very drawn-out deal. It looks like Pakistan, with a couple of approvals, a couple of crossed T's and dotted I's, will get about $7 billion until the end of 2024. That's a great start. Pakistan says it needs $50 billion, so there's going to have to be more money coming in. But a lot of lenders will say, look, once you're kosher with the IMF, we'll come help you out a little bit. What we don't know in the fine print, and I've looked through the IMF's preliminary agreement, is what the agreements are on Chinese loans. Now, China has become so much more important a lender since the last time emerging markets were going to the IMF en masse. We don't know whether China has agreed with this. We don't know where China is in the line for debts to be repaid, and this will be an issue that replays. It will replay in Sri Lanka. It will replay in Ghana. Both countries are going to the IMF right now.
Do we have any news on what's happening with the IMF talks in Sri Lanka?
Excellent question, and no change from yesterday, where the IMF working groups from the IMF are still in Colombo, but they don't have anyone to talk to, and so there's really no progress on a bailout program, because until there's a government in place, it's not clear who you would give those billions of dollars to.
And just very briefly, oil prices once again falling.
Well, absolutely remarkable, down about 4% today. And Anil, we are now below where the oil price was on the day before Russia invaded Ukraine. So all of that rally that we saw Brent crude oil up to about $140 a barrel. All of that's erased, and it's because people are afraid that there's going to be a recession.
All right, business correspondent Laurie Laird, as always, thank you.